Hi there, and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to walk you through how to set up a lead capture form inside of Dubsado the right way to make sure that you are able to utilize Dubsado's features to the fullest and get the most out of your Dubsado account. Your lead capture is actually one of the very most important steps in setting up your Dubsado account. It makes sure that everything is talking to each other properly on the back end, and we're able to use all of the smart fields properly. The smart fields help us to personalize emails, label our projects, and keep things organized without you having to repeat information or copy information over. So I wanted to show you an example of a lead capture, also known as an inquiry form, but in Dubsado it is called a lead capture form. So I am here on the contact page of my website, and you will see here the first name, last name, all these fields over here on the right hand side. And this is my lead capture set up so that it is embedded on the page here. We want lead capture forms to actually be super simple and straightforward. And when we then embed them onto the form, it will take on the styling of the page. So in this example, you could see my background is just white, but if I had used a color or something else in the background of my website, it would show through on the embedded lead capture form. So as I show you how to build this out, just keep that in mind that we don't need any images, we don't need anything fancy. Most of the time it is recommended to have everything inside of the page itself. So we have two options for a lead capture form to share it. You can either, let me hit save here. You can either embed it, which is copying and pasting this code into a code block in your website, or a direct link. So when I'm showing you this here, it is embedded on my contact page. So when you first go into Dubsado, I am in my test or demo account here. And when you click on adding a new lead capture form, this is the default of what will show up. And we are going to customize this, and I'll show you how to set everything up for your business. So the first thing that I like to do is use these things called containers. And what the containers do is allow us to put things in different columns of 1, 2, 3, or 4. And it also helps to make sure everything is mobile friendly. So if I went to this website on mobile, if you have everything in a container where it is all being stacked on the left-hand side, like this, for example, if we did email, phone number, what would happen is all of this would go first and then these fields would go after it. So the containers help to make sure that everything stays where we want it to stay on mobile and on desktop. So we will use these containers here. I do always recommend having the client's first and last name. If you don't want them side by side, you certainly can do just one column here as well. But I like to have client first name and last name first. One mistake I see people do a lot is they put them together in one field, but we actually just want them to be separated out. The biggest reason is because we are going to use field mapping. If you look over here on the left-hand side for elements, you will see that there's all different options here. We want to use the short answer fields as much as possible on a lead capture form. These are the only fields that allow you to do field mapping in the back end. If I click on a full response, for example, there's no option to map that. This is really important to set up our client's first name and our client's last name properly. Now, if you want to add placeholder text, you certainly can. I recommend just doing kind of a cleaner look. It's a little bit easier, but there might be times where it's appropriate to have a placeholder text. So I am going to do two columns there, first and last name, and I'm going to add in, the container. If you drag it in, then you can put it wherever you want. If you click on it, it's going to default to the bottom. So I will do then email next, inside of the container, and then phone number. You can decide if you want these things on or off, and you'll see that all of these things, if you want it required, on or off, and all of these things have already started field mapping for you, and you want to keep it that way. So now this is where we can start customizing it. So I work with a lot of wedding professionals, so let's just say we're doing wedding date here, and your client will be able to select their project date. Now what this means is if you have a project that is on one single date, When this form is filled out and someone inquires, it will automatically put it onto your calendar as a lead. So especially for wedding dates or services that are working around a date, this is really helpful. If, however, you don't need that to happen, for me, for example, my clients usually work with me from somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks, so I don't really need this project date from them. That will be something we determine after they inquire. So you can decide if that makes sense for you or not. Sometimes, if we're sticking with the photographer here example, you can also change it to start dates, and what that will do is allow you to put a start time here. Again, I don't do this frequently unless there was like a very specific reason that you would need that information, but project date is usually enough. Now let's see, maybe you also need to know, I'm going to put this in a container here as well. And this one I'm actually going to just keep it as one. And the next question I need to ask is, let's say I need to know their guest count or maybe their venue first. So let's say we do venue or location. Now what I typically do for that is under field mapping here, we are going to select the one that says project location name. So because this is general, Dubsado is general for all types of businesses, project really could mean anything. It could mean all sorts of things, but I like to use it in this case as a venue or a location. We don't need the address just yet. We just need to get the basic information to see if we are available to work with this client. Now, if I'm going to use the single container here, I could definitely put multiple boxes here, and that won't change anything on mobile. But let's say you also wanted to, so see how there I have 2 boxes, that will just stack them on mobile. But if you have 2 columns or more, you need to have separate containers to keep everything in order. So let's say now you wanted to ask for their estimated guest count. So there isn't a field for that, but for you that is important, and you'd like to maybe mention this again on a proposal, or you'd like to have it in an email or something, maybe a questionnaire along the way, where if you need this information multiple times, it may make sense to have a custom map field, and the custom map fields can be created under settings up here. We have custom map fields. So I'm going to create it at the project level. This means that, let's say a client inquired to work with you and you worked with them from start to finish on a project. They are now considered a client in your address book. But let's say they came back again a second time to work with you on something different from start to finish. The projects would be 2 separate things, so we might want to treat them separately. So the reason that we're going to do that is to put this one in under project here and click save. So let me just refresh to go back to my new lead capture form. So now when we go back to the form, I can now map this field as well. It will be here under estimated guest count. Sometimes I have to refresh the page again to make sure that that one is there, but that is a nice option if there are things that you need over and over and over again. So think of your lead capture as soon as this information is captured once, you don't have to write it again, and your client shouldn't have to write it again. Now, how can we help? This is just some general information here that we can add. Another mistake that I see often is people will come in and then select the drop down here and ask, how did you find me? Now, while that works, you're missing out on one of the very important pieces of project tracking. So project tracking is exactly that. How did you find us? So you can start to keep a count of how many people came from Instagram or Facebook or the Knot or LinkedIn, anywhere that you are marketing your business. Now, these first need to be set up in your reporting tab in Dubsado. So if you come over to reporting and then project sources in here, you can add as many sources as you like and list them out here. I like to just put them in alphabet. They default to ABC order, but I like to put them in rainbow order just because it's fun. So once you're happy with that and that is all set up, you've added in all the ways that people will find you. We will go back to your lead capture form, and we are using the project sourcing or project tracking element here. Now, when we click on this here and you click the drop down, you'll see now the options that you put in yourself. It will have a few default ones there, but we are going to select all. So now when your client goes to fill out the inquiry form, they will be able to select from a drop down. And then the nice part about that, or the reason we do that, is under project breakdown. This is where you'll be able to see, it looks a little funny when it's empty, but you'll be able to see data of how many people found you at certain dates or times and be able to track your inquiries across a calendar year. So this is a really nice way to come in and check out what is working in your marketing strategy here. So the last option we have here to show you, you can use any of these elements, but like I mentioned, I really don't recommend putting images or things like that on this form. You might want to use a spacer for some reason, but keeping this really short and concise is the goal. We really just want to use this for seeing if you are available to work with this client or not. So the last option I'd like to show you here is workflow. So workflow is a really handy tool to be able to start different workflows based off the service that you are selecting. So you may not be at that point yet where you have workflows set up, and that's okay. You can still use this element for right now and always go back and add in workflows later. So in this case, if we're talking about a photographer, like we mentioned, they might be looking for wedding, or they might be looking for portraits, or let's say maybe it's an engagement session or branding. So no workflow will start until you actually select it from here. So I could have different workflows for a wedding client than a portrait client or an engagement session. So in this case, if we wanted different emails to be sent to different types of clients, that's what this element is for here. Let's say though that everybody is going through the exact same workflow. The other thing that you can do is just set one single default workflow for everyone. So where in this case, everyone might go through the same inquiry process where they get an auto response to their email after the form is completed. Then they book a call. And so at this point, maybe it doesn't matter what type of service they're looking for. So you have two options there, but I recommend only using one of them, either having everybody go through one or separating them out based on the type of service they offer. Now, since we're here, let's talk about these additional form settings here. This thank you message is the message that will pop up after someone fills out your form. Usually I do like to personalize this for the business, so you could say something, thank you for inquiring. If you do have automation set up after this, then it is nice to say like, check your email, you should be receiving an email momentarily. I did also learn that you can add in, let me just double check, you can add in images here, which is kind of cool. So if you wanted to add in, let's say I'm going to put this image here. See if I can get it in. There it goes. Okay, so it just makes it feel a little more personal, and you can sort of like play around with how you like that to look. You won't be able to see it until you actually like test it out. I should have done that after. I should have typed after I typed, but you get the idea. So it's just a nice way, and kind of like one of the best parts about Dubsado, to make it feel like your business and feel really personalized and not like a system. The other thing you can do is sort of get fancy and make a hidden page on your website, and it can redirect to say like, have confetti or something kind of cool that's unique to after someone inquires, they get a specific thank you message, or something else that you'd like them to have on that hidden page. The other thing you can do, especially if you don't have workflows set up, you can immediately use this project source or project status here to track and filter these leads right away. So I typically recommend having one for new lead, so that as soon as someone fills out the form, you can easily identify that these people are brand new and we need to respond to them. The other thing you can do is set up a project title. And I like to use the client's full name, but you could have it say something like the client's full name, as well as, let's say in this case for a wedding client, maybe it's their partner's last name, first and last name as well. And then you could say something like wedding from there. So this, let me finish my thought here. So this could be anything really in this option, in these lists of things here depending on your business. It may make sense to have the company name, but these will eventually be client facing. So just keep that in mind, that this will appear on your client's invoice and they will be able to see it in their client portal. If you have a team member, this is a place where you could add them in and assign them. Let's say as soon as you got a new lead, maybe you wanted to assign it to a specific person that will handle that. You could definitely do that as well. I always recommend having no expiration on these lead forms. We don't want to have to mess with this. We want to keep this as no expiration date. And then legacy mode should be off by default. This is something that when Dubsado switched to a new form builder, it protects old code. So we are not doing that in this case. We're just going to turn it off. And then the other thing that you can do is do any sort of form styling. So I like to always pick one Dubsado font that everything will match. So let's say you wanted to do, let's say Arial. You can then select the color and it will change all of the fields on the form. I'm sorry, the size and the color. Let's say you needed it to be black, or maybe your brand colors are gray. You see how it changes everything all at once. So you can see here, I don't have everything in a container, and that is okay. But if you are kind of anal about it like I am, then just make sure they're all in one container. So now when we preview our form, you'll see that it is ready to be added into our contact page. And then let me just show you, if I shrink this down, what that looks like on mobile. So you'll see here that the fields are stacking correctly, where I don't want it to say like first name and then email and then phone number and then last name. I want them to match up correctly. And that's what the container does there. The last thing I forgot to mention is that you can also change this submit button. So if we come into settings, this submit button right here under the styling, you could say something like, let's go, or I'm ready, like something that's kind of on brand for your business, and make it feel a little more personal that way as well. So I think we covered all of the basics of your lead capture form. You are welcome to use any of these elements over here, but you'll see how we are only allowed to use workflows one time and project tracking one time. But you can certainly add in any other fields that make sense for your business. My name is Kelly McCracken, so I am a certified Dubsado specialist, so I help lots of different business owners set up their Dubsado accounts. So if that is something you are interested in, you can find me at kellymccracken.co, and the same thing on Instagram at kellymccracken.co. I hope this was helpful, and I hope this helps you get your inquiries nice and easy.